What's all up for shy, yo? Welcome back to Mac and Free, but our names are not important. Now we gotta talk about a couple other things that we want to get into, and that is how we need to look at the man or the mirror, or are we looking at the media, man? So we know that the media comes out with information in droves. They tell us about different things. They provide different information for us. But we had a deep discussion about this the other day in our pre-production meeting, and I have a little different take on that. Because, again, there is the media and this information, and then it's the audience for whom it feeds it to. And then, again, we start talking about the psychologies of these things that follow it, which is the media only puts out the information that the public has insinuated that it wants. Not giving you the information that you should have, but particularly the information that you want. So if the media didn't want to put on a display of rioting, for example, like they don't have to. They can only cover the peaceful protests and then ignore the riots. But what becomes more scintillating TV for the majority of its viewers is the rioting. And if you disagree with that, then I would suggest that you check the concept of some of your most favorite reality TV shows and let me know which ones you like the most. Are the ones that you tend to watch the most, or the ones that are more popular? Are those the shows that are like where everybody's singing Kumbaya? Are these the ones where there's a fight every other show, where there's arguments, or there's which makes compelling TV? So that made me ask the question: who's responsible for this? Do you look in the mirror, or do you look at the TV and point to the TV? And again, I live off the old saying that when you point one finger, you got three more pointing back at you. That's what I believe it is. Free?
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
Ultimately, I mean, the responsibility boils down to you. But I want to say it still goes back to an integrity standpoint. Because we understand that in the entertainment world that we live in, we understand that sex, drama, violence sells.
Yes.
All right. So when you look at what's most popular, it's the more of that that wow factor that sells. That was my Dwayne from What's Happening type of but that's what grabs you, and it's about hooks now. So if we can pop a headline up there, or going into a commercial, throw something out there that's like, what? That gives you that wow, and then you get into it and you realize it might not be what I thought it was.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about that hook. So once again, I think there's a certain level of integrity that has to be placed on these media outlets. And I know you have to sell the story in a way, but do your best not to deceive. And then, because we do have people that may come from areas where they're not exposed to a lot of stuff, and this might be their only exposure to stuff, or young folks that might take a part of this, or individuals that might just be coming into paying attention to certain things. And the integrity of your media platform could bear a lot in how this person views certain things in society, politically, financially. So, it goes back to the integrity. And I'll pass it back to you, Mac.
Well, no, it is the integrity, and you have to keep in mind, again, who's responsible for dissecting the information. That's the receiver. So it's one thing to get misinformation from the media It's another thing to decode it wrong and then spew more information that way. It kind of goes back into our last segment, which was about misinformation in social media, because that information is uncontrolled. Like, that's an uncontrolled environment, which is social media. So I can literally create an art-filled ad right now that looks like a newspaper that says that Donald Trump was found dead in a bunker. And I can make it look like news, and then people would have to go fact check it. But what I'm telling you is there are going to be some people who are going to run with that and not fact check it, because it fits within, going back to it again, it fits within their confirmation bias. So that's on you, the receiver, at that point, because all you had to do is fact check it, and you know it's not true. He just tweeted this morning. But even with that being said, there is that responsibility of the media about how it delivers its information. So, for example, if what you put out into the world is hate-filled and fear-mongering, then the people are now fearful. You can't then, as the media, complain about that and then say, well, we put it out, you needed to. No, you're the media. You're trusted to give factual information, and your information is factual, by the way. It's just a matter of how you perceive it. So again, when I go back to my analogy about, you point one finger, you have three pointing back at you. That goes for the media too. If the media wants to point to the receiver of the information that you've encoded to be decoded once it's gotten into the hands of the receiver, then it's also of your responsibility in the media to go ahead and make sure that you're putting the information out there in the right light. Go ahead, Free.
Well, I was just going to say that also there's that line that I don't think a lot of people make a mistake on, and that is understanding the difference between fact and truth. Because a lot of times outlets will throw facts, but are they necessarily truths to the point that they're trying to make? And once again, sometimes that line of integrity wavers for that wow appeal. So I think what we could do as a media outlet is try to just restate that time and time again, is whoever's listening, understand there still is a difference between fact and truth. And I go back to my brother Mac, a stat, what he stated one time to bring this to light, and that was saying one time you said, I believe you, if I played LeBron James 1-on-1 to 12, and I might say, yeah, I played LeBron James, and I shot 100% against him.
Yeah.
That might be a fact, but the truth is, you only got one shot off on him, the first shot of the game, and then after that, he stole the ball, and then scored 12 points and beat you. But it still relies on understanding the difference, and you fact check. But you have to understand the truth that is supposedly trying to be conveyed, so you know how to fact check and know how to do your research well. And then and I think that's where you'll learn how to decipher through it and know how to choose your sources. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you have to. And honestly, people, it's up to you, because again, I saw something a few years back that a buddy of mine had posted, God rest his soul, but it was about, the difference between black on black crime and who's more likely to kill who and blah, blah, blah. And in this, it was this very misleading stat that talked about, white people were 3% more likely to kill each other. And then, black people killed by police were more like, it was like 12%. And it was in ascending order from top to bottom. Which one is, the lowest being at the top, the highest being at the bottom. And then it gets to the bottom, and there's a picture on the left-hand side of a depicted black gangster with a bandana wrapped around his head and his mouth, and he has a gun pointed at the statistics turned sideways. Very, very menace to society-ish. And at the bottom of this animated statistical quote was, black on black crime happens 97% more likely to die, 97% more likely to die from black on black crime. And again, I say this to the heavens and the earths and the moons and the stars, there's no such thing as black on black crime. Number one, that does not exist. But just as importantly, that was misinformation that I was able to debunk because I understand where to go get that information from. And it literally took me, while I was driving, 3 minutes to debunk it. Like, literally, it took me 3 minutes just to find the statistics that show who did what. And it, like, all interracial crimes have roughly about the same percentage. But again, what's dangerous about that is who received that information on the other side and saw it and immediately assumed that that was the truth to power because they found it on their social media outlet. And that's a problem. And again, there's absolutely positively no truth to it. But because of where you obtain the information from, feels like absolutely there's truth to this. But it's really not. And we all have to be more responsible, including the media. Because again, you have to tell the truth, not just spew facts. Because all facts do is support something that's factual. Like the sky is blue, for sure. But it's not 30 miles away from you. Like that's another thing that's also.
Yeah, and I want the listeners of this show to know that even when I lie, I tell the truth. Okay? So I just want them to understand that. You see what I'm saying?
I do not.
And even when I lie, I'm telling the truth.
Hey, I wish I could get away with that one. Because that is...
all you got to do is try, man. All you got to do is try.
I've tried. It hadn't worked out for me that well, but neither does shade tree mechanics. That never works out for me. I've had people tell me, like, yeah, man, I know somebody that'll do your brakes for $20. And then they MacGyvered my brakes, putting hairpins and stopping my brakes with cotton swabs. And it's like, all right, I did not sign up for this. But again, you get what you pay for.
It was eco-friendly. That was an eco-friendly brake job.
Yeah, eco-friendly, my behind, man. That was I think that now looking back on it, I believe that person was trying to murder me. I'm almost certain of it. But I do think that the media does. I mean, I honestly, just going back to answer the question for this topic before we go into break, the media holds equal responsibility to the people on the other side of it. But you can't just point your finger at the media and say, hey, it's your fault. You're the reason why this happened. You're blah, blah, blah. No. You can't do that. You have to hold some responsibility because you have to be able to disseminate the information that gets to you. Speaking of disseminating information, when we come back from break, we're going to talk about knowing your partner. We're going to get a little lighter on these subjects now and get out of all the deep thought. Because again, you have people who've been married for 30 years and then they don't know each other. And I've got some interesting takes on how to keep that idea fresh and why it's hard. And these are things I'm just learning myself. And then we're going to end the show with, and for people, listen, don't jump down my throat. Don't at me about this. We're going to compare and contrast Jordan and LeBron. That's it. We're just going to compare and contrast. We're not going to talk about who's better, who's worse, none of that. We're just going to compare and contrast. So don't you touch that dial. We'll be back right after this. Mac and Free. Welcome back to Mac and Free, but I name